is about service level benchmarking of urban transport, which the Government of India, Ministry of Urban Development, initiated in the year 2010. What was envisaged was that each urban local body or the city will undertake the service level benchmarking exercise more on an annual basis to start with, and then so that they know what sectors they are investing in and then what are the impacts. I think why don't you just put up the presentation? Yeah, just start off with that itself. It's a good idea. And therefore there are 2 rounds of benchmarking exercise which has happened for 12 cities. Okay, 2 institutions which are involved there. Except university, we are doing benchmarking for 6 cities, and Institute of Urban Transport and IL&FS are undertaking this exercise for another 6 cities. Idea was mainly to, this was a pilot project. Idea was to develop a methodology so as to have some kind of a common framework within which benchmarking is undertaken countrywide, so that whenever you need to do some kind of comparison, it is possible. That was a kind of an idea. We have today city representatives and also the subject experts, and we hope that some discussion on the focus areas, indicators, the measurement and the outcomes and the policy directions, I think that's even more important, will emerge out of this discussion. The cities which Ahmedabad did were Ahmedabad, Bhubaneswar, Hubli Dharwad, Kohima, Mysore and Surat. 2 from Gujarat, 2 from Karnataka, 1 from Odisha and 1 from Kohima. Kohima is a hill city, and there are some certain separate indicators were also developed for that particular aspect there. We all are aware that the service level benchmarking is a measure and a monitor. It is a framework to measure and monitor urban transport performance. That's in India, established in 2010 by Ministry of Urban Development. What is going on? How are we doing? Who has accomplished what is the best practices which are available today, and where are others, and how we can reach there. What should we do and what should be our targets and how do we reach there are some of the kind of questions for which one seeks answers to this benchmarking framework. It is not a one-time exercise, it's an ongoing process, and therefore it has to be integrated in an institutional process rather than standalone done by a consultant or a research institution at any point in time. Next one, please. There are the periodicity part of it is an issue. We did the first round in 2011 and 12, predominantly in 2011. Second round in 2015 and 16 after a 4-year period. Whether it should be annual, linked to an annual budgeting exercise of the urban local body, whether it should be done once in 5 years. It is right now integrated as part of the comprehensive mobility planning process there. The question is it adequate just to integrate it with CMP process? Even smart cities, when they were selected, that's also the time when they were asked to go through this benchmarking part of it there. Is it adequate, or is there something more that we monitor on an annual basis is a question we need to decide at some point in time as part of this discussion. Next, please. Guiding documents which are available is the NUTP, National Urban Transport Policy, and then the National Mission for Sustainable Habitat. They were the guiding policy framework within which the benchmarking was developed. Yeah, next please. I think we can skip that. NUTP objectives are known there. We all know that when you do a benchmarking exercise, we need to have a framework within which it is done. This particular exercise is done with a set of focus areas or dimensions of urban transport, because urban transport is not just one aspect, there are several aspects. And then we have indicators, and then we are trying to organize the framework such that the focus areas, indicators, measuring those indicators in terms of what to measure, why to measure, and how to measure. I think that is what is the overall presentation which I will be giving now. Yep. Where are we focusing? Actually the urban transport decision making happens at the strategic level, tactical level, and operational level. This benchmarking exercise being focused at the local level, we believe that the tactical and operational level, that's where the emphasis is right now. But then when you look at it at countrywide aggregates, it will have strategic inputs at the national policy level. Therefore, focus right now is tactical and operational, but then can be expanded to the strategic level part with that. Next please. Slightly out of sequence, but then I thought we will give some kind of preparatory activities which I had to undertake. One was defining the study area, benchmarking for a city. What is that city? I think we needed to define. Number two, what our focus when you talk about mobility or transport, the networks become critical, and therefore how did we identify those networks for studying? And then the transit network itself was another part of it. How did we identify them? There is a special focus needed for hilly areas, and that's something which I attempted in some way. Street lighting measurement was something which was a difficult task, which we have undertaken, and I'll just take a minute to explain it as part of the process. Various surveys were conducted, both primary and secondary, and I will just highlight that. As I said, municipal corporation or municipal limits and the city, they are not co-terminus, because city has grown in most cases beyond the municipal limits, and therefore what we did as study area to include all the municipal area plus whatever is a contiguously developed area outside the municipal area as a study area. For instance, I am illustrating it with Bhubaneswar. We are taking 179 square kilometers, which includes both the municipal area and then the parts which are highlighted in green are outside the municipal area, but contiguously developed in terms of physical development. We did not have a readily available road network information. That was very difficult part of it. What we did was we had to collect information based on the master plan, other local area plans, plus the Google Maps, and put them together and try and put it together as one framework. And of the identified network, we have identified 141 kilometers as a major network. That's over 10% of the total road network. In that whole process, what we did was we identified the entire network. We thought it is important to have a formal classification of road network into an hierarchy, and therefore we did level 1, level 2, level 3 and level 4. Level 1 is of the highest order. The way we defined it, whatever defines the pattern of the city, whether it's a ring radial city or a gridiron city or a mixed pattern network, whatever, if there is a clear pattern, whatever that pattern, the network which defines that pattern as a level 1. Okay. And then the next level roads which makes the blocks of various zones or whatever you call that, they become your level 2 roads, next one. And then the level 3 are the next level of roads which are short in length, narrow in width, and then connecting these blocks is what we call them as third level, and the rest of it as the level 4 roads. We have taken level 1 and level 2 for our study as part of this whole process. The transit, when you talk about urban transport, it has to be, important thing is a headway. There are only 4 trips, 5 trips a day. That's not urban transport. Therefore, benchmarking had defined that headway must be minimum 60 minutes or less. And that's how we have included all those routes. And then of those routes, then we have sample-wise selected certain set of routes in terms of high frequency, medium frequency and a low frequency routes there. Yeah, next. And then the bus stops for the waiting time, and we have selected on all the major roads, we identified the bus stops, and then several bus stops in a random sampling manner, selected the bus stops for delay time or a waiting time part of it. Next please. Yeah. Methodology again for the street lighting, I think it has to be the entire network and then the road width wise, like 16 points, and then you take all the 16 points and average part of it. We followed what is generally given in the British standards for lux levels. That's what we took it as benchmark there. Primary surveys, we had to do a road inventory in terms of encroachments and things of that kind. A level of comfort, the load factors we needed to survey on the city buses, because we don't get how many passengers are there on board at any point in time. Speed and delay surveys were conducted, and they also were checked with the Google speed and delay results what we get. Fairly close, and that's very interesting. And NMT facilities at transit stations were to be surveyed, lux surveys, lux levels, and then the land use along the transit corridor was the primary survey data which we had to collect. The framework had in total 11, today we have 11 areas, but then initially that suggested 10, what they call focus areas. The focus areas included public transport facilities. Financial sustainability of public transport was given as a separate focus area. Pedestrian infrastructure facilities as third. Non-motorized transport facilities as 4. Usage of intelligent transport system as 5. Travel speeds as 6, both motorized and mass transit, personalized and mass transit. And 7th one was availability of public parking spaces. 8th was road safety, 9 pollution levels, 10 integrated land use transport system. Very comprehensive. Two things. One, intermediary public transport was missed in the whole process. Yeah, please come. Intermediary public transport was totally missed out, and therefore that was added as 11th one. And then nomenclature of some of the focus areas, like instead of usage of intelligent transport facilities, it was called as application of intelligent transport system. Parking provision, it was a very wrong connotation, and therefore it was called as parking management. Pollution levels were changed as environment. I think that is one. And therefore we have now 11 focus areas. Yeah, next page. As I said, hill cities pose the problem very differently. One is accessibility measurement was an issue. Second one, you can go to the next one. Public transport in terms of, we take 500 meters as a buffer in most cases when it comes to plains. Now, what is that equivalent of 500 meters in a hill city was what needed to be figured out. That is number one. Next. And then we don't have a footpath there. In most places, hill cities, you have the steps basically. Therefore, the first thing which we did when we did a user survey, we came back and we realized two things. One is, if you're talking about the 500 meters in the plains, you take about 6 minutes. And if you want an equivalent of it, then you can only traverse about 230 meters in a hill station. That's the equivalency factor. Therefore, we took 250 meters as an accessible area for any bus stops there. But we also had this question, how much time are they willing to walk to the bus stations, so on and so forth. Interestingly, it came out as 750 minutes and 20 minutes. 750 meters and 20 minutes. Therefore, we have chosen the first one, 230 meters. Instead of 230, we said 250 meters from the bus station as an accessible area. Quality of footsteps was something which was an important aspect to be evaluated. Would you like to say something about it, Nitika?
Yes, when we looked at the footsteps, most of them were in a very poor condition. So firstly, we needed to also define how would we measure these footsteps in terms of the number of footsteps and also the quality of them in terms of whether they're lighting, whether the condition of these footsteps is good enough, And then also in some places we had small walkways that were leading to these important public transport stops. So all those things we took into consideration and tried to look at different measures in terms of the tread, in terms of the height of the footsteps, the kind of lighting that is there available on them during the daytime, also the width of the footsteps. So those were taken as qualitative measures to be measured when we were surveying those footsteps and trying to assess the quality of footsteps and such.
Yeah. These are some of the examples which one sees in the in Kohima. These are from Kohima. Therefore, like is almost non-existent to some, there. Yeah. This is the background, and coming to the focus areas, the indicators and the measurement. Public transport facilities as a focus area. Initially, there were 6 indicators which were identified, and those 6 indicators included presence of an organized public transport system, extent of supply, that is availability of public transport, essentially number of buses per lakh population, transit accessible area, that is like percentage of built up area within 500 meters of PT, public transport, average waiting time, and then level of comfort in public transport, that is the occupancy levels, and then the percentage of fleet as per urban bus specification. These are the 6 which were there. If you really look at public transport facilities, we need to look at them from the user perspective and operator perspective. When you look at user perspective, we are representing service availability, that is number 1, and then the service delivery part of it is number 2. I think those 2 get covered as part of it. Service effectiveness in terms of efficiency part of it is just not there. And so also the financial sustainability part of it is also not there. Okay, these 2 things. Financial sustainability was defined separately. It had 3 indicators: extent of non-fare revenue, staff per bus ratio, and operating revenue. Therefore, we needed to expand this list. Ritika? Yeah. The expanded list included 1 in terms of service availability part of it. We also added, it has to be in the delivery part, affordability of public transport. Basically, as a fare factor, we brought it in to this whole thing. We took the minimum wage levels which are defined for different city sizes, and then the 24-day working and 2 trips. And then for one person, if he has to make 2 trips by public transport, whether he is able to do it or not. I think that was how the affordability was measured as part of this. Additionally, we added service effectiveness. One was total boardings per 1,000 population. For that particular thing, the best thing would be probably the percentage of ridership on public transport would be a better measure, but then that would require a household survey. Therefore, we decided not to go for an household survey. Just take total boardings per 1,000 population on public transport. That's what it is. Breakdowns of public transport is the second indicator which is added. Vehicle utilization per day is the third one, and then average travel speed of public transport and major corridors. This is an indicator which was merged with something else at some other focus area. We brought it from there to this particular thing. And therefore now we have public transport facilities, 11 indicators as part of that. Financial sustainability, we have 3 indicators and we are continuing with them. We believe that investment in in public transport and NMT and pedestrian facilities should come in as part of it, but that's something which we have not done as of now. In the future versions, we'll have to include that part as well. Once we have decided on the indicators, each indicator you do a calculation in terms of measurement part of it. Like if you take extent of supply or availability of public transport, buses on road on an average on any given day, and then the total population of that study area, and multiply it by 1,000, and what you get is buses per 1,000 population. That is what is the parametric you get, and that parametric we said it can vary from depending on the city size. We classified the cities into 3 different types. One is a metro mega cities, 4 million plus, metro cities, and then other cities basically. That's less than 1 million, 1 to 4, less than 1 million, and then classified them into levels of services. For classifying these as levels of services, we took guidance from what is technically feasible, that's number one, and then what is generally desirable and suggested standards. Okay, we referred to several documents, and for each indicator we had something as desirable and plausible. Okay, these are the two things which you looked at it. Based on that, we classified it as level of service 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Okay. Then once we have this focus area, and then once we measure it, when we classify it as level of service for that particular indicator. Likewise, for the entire 11 indicators of public transport focus areas, there were LOS was measured. Like for instance, presence of organized public transport system in an urban area. It was only yes and no. If it is yes, it is 1, and if it is no, then the level of service is 4. Extent of supply of public transport, if you look at it, that was classified into 4 different levels in terms of number of buses per 1,000 population was classified, and in this case it is level of service 4. Likewise, for each indicator, level of service was measured, and in that level of service, when you sum it up, the total value what you get here is 24. 11 indicators, 4 is the lowest level possible, and 44 is the highest level possible. Okay, 11 is the lowest level possible and 44 is the highest level possible. That again was further classified into level of service 1, 2, 3 and 4. And in this case, overall level of service of public transport is classified as 3. Okay, that is very low. The 1 is very high and 4 is low, and then 3 is something better than the worst, but then it's not really the case. And then for each focus area, there was an effort made to describe what it means basically. For instance, when you say 3 level of service for public transport, city has a public transport system which need considerable improvements in terms of supply of buses, coaches and coverage, as most part of the city are not served by it. The frequency of the services available needs improvement. The system provided is not comfortable as there is considerable overloading. I think this is the way, depending on the characteristics, we define what it is all about. This is a methodology for one focus area. Likewise, we did it for second focus area. Second focus area again is overall level of service is 3. Their financial sustainability we have already talked about. Next one. Okay. Yeah. Third focus area is pedestrian infrastructure facilities. There were 3 indicators. One for availability, that is percentage of city covered with footpath, signalized intersection delay, and then the street lighting. These are the 3 indicators which we had in the original document. Subsequently, we added signalized intersection delay. Where do we measure it? If you know so many junctions, how many junctions have signalized intersections or not? I think that itself was a question. Therefore, that was added there. Therefore, we have 4 indicators as part of this focus area. The level of service for 4 again was measured, and then here the highest is 16 and the lowest is 4 in terms of the summed overall level of service. For this city, the level of service is 2, overall level of service. They are doing well in terms of signalized intersections at least. Same way, non-motorized transport facilities. What is of the total major road network, how much of it has exclusive non-motorized carriageway, that is the bicycle lanes. How much of the network has the bicycle lanes is what is the first indicator, that's availability. NMT parking facilities at interchanges is a second indicator. And then whether these parking encroachment on NME roads by vehicles parking is a third indicator in terms of the performance measures. These are the 3. Yep. We'll quickly go through the indicators list for, where are you? application of ITS facilities, availability of traffic surveillance on public transport modes, passenger information system, global positioning system, whether it's used or not in the buses. I think these are the three. And then the service delivery, whether you have synchronization or not, is one. Integrated ticketing system is the second one for application of ITS. Yeah, you can go to the next one. Then there is the road network performance. Area under roads percentage area is 1 in terms of availability. Road density is the second indicator, which is again defining the same availability part of it. These two actually is an overlapping kind of indicators, but one thought it is necessary to have both of them. And then service delivery part, there are three: travel speed of personal vehicles, travel speed of public transport along key. That is not here as of now. That has been shifted to public transport. And then the street levels in terms of lux levels. That's what is being included there. Yeah, you can go to the next one. Yeah. Parking management, here availability of paid parking. It's not important in terms of overall parking supply is not what is important. Paid parking is what, whether the paid parking is there or not there, and how much of the entire street network which where there is parking, how much of it is paid parking is what is the question. And then the ratio of the maximum and the minimum in terms of parking fee has been included, because there must be variation over space and time. Okay, that's the reason why that has been included. Yep. Road safety is the 8th focus area. Fatality rates is number 1. Fatality rate for pedestrian and NMT is something which has been segregated as separately. If it is high, then it's even worse. And then the third one, we have added the third one because serious injuries and fatality, not much difference there as of now. I think, therefore, I think it's important nowadays that more passenger vehicles, especially cars coming in, serious injuries needed to be included. We have included that part of it. These are the three indicators for road safety. Yep. This is a little tricky. I know you may have some suggestions on this. Tricky in the sense that we take annual mean concentration of SO2, NO2, and then SPM and RSPM. Okay, both SPM and RSPM are included. And you take CPCB suggested guidelines and you take annual average data. Okay, the reason I am saying it is tricky, everywhere it looks fine when you take annual averages. Therefore, we need to relook at this particular indicator in terms of the measurement. Otherwise, everything looks very nice and cozy. That's where the problems are, especially for the environment focus area. Ritika? Yep. Integrated land use transport system. This is it's a long-term focus area because it comes in out of master plans and the land use plans. One is the population density, second mixed land use along transit corridors, and then what is the FSI permitted in the city, FSI permitted along transit corridor whether TOD is there or not, and then the clear pattern of road network is there or not is an important thing. Percentage of network having exclusive right of way for transit network is a 6th indicator. Whether there are terminals which are having multimodal interchange facilities is a 7th indicator. Given this, again, yep, go to the next one. Yep. The last one is intermediary public transport, which was added. One is whether presence of IPT per 1,000 people. Generally, one thinks more is better or less is better. Here it cannot be more, cannot be better, and less cannot be better. If there are more, that means that public transport, it is serving like a public transport. If there are less, then options for people not having vehicles are not there, and therefore it has to be somewhere in between. And that's how the indicator was measured. An indicator classification like stay there, no? Yeah. IPT per 1,000 people. If it is less than or equal to 4, then it's a good 3.5 to 4.5. If that is the range you have, that's a good system. And 2.5 to 3.5 and 4.5 to 5.5. If that is a range, in these two ranges if you fall, that is categorized LOS 2, and then 1 to 2.5 and 5.5 to 6.5 is categorized as 3, and then less than 1 or greater than 6 is categorized as, it's a new curve basically, that's how it's been classified. And then whether they have an IT and GPS or not monitored, I think that's a safety parameter which comes in there. And the speeds is something which is included. Yes. Taking all of this, for each of the city, a report card is developed, like the LOS for all the 11 focus areas. Summary of LOS for 2012 is measured, that is number 1. And then how things have changed over a period of time, that is 2015-16, the current year's LOS. And then those changes, whether they are positive, negative, or there is no change, is attempted to be shown as part of the first serial number coloring, whatever has been done there. Stay there, Nitika, 1 second. Yeah? If you see there, there is some positive change in terms of pedestrian facilities. Otherwise, okay, there is some change in parking management. Road safety, there is a worsening part of it, that's a worrisome part of it. In most cities, road network seems to be improving, whereas public transport seems to be going down. We will come back to the conclusions part of it based on the cities. This is the framework which has been used as part of the overall benchmarking part of it. There is also an attempt made in terms of whatever investments which are right now ongoing, what will their effect be in the next 2-3 year period. That's an attempt which is there. We will show it as part of it.